Kevin Stefanski didn't appear in the practice clip, but his presence loomed over every frame. As Shedeur Sanders zipped passes through the falling snow, the sideline felt tense, uncertain, bracing for a shift. Reports keep surfacing. Stefanski may be on his way out, and the silence from ownership isn't helping. The viral footage shows Sanders calm under pressure, but the organization behind him? Anything but. From the top down, there's instability. And when leadership wavers, if you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Everything else follows. What's striking about this moment is how clearly it reflects the crossroads Cleveland has reached. While Sanders finished strong, the questions hovering over the coaching staff, quarterback competition, and front office direction remain unresolved. Gabriel's position may be safe for now, but the ripple effect of a coaching change could reset everything. In a franchise where certainty is rare and transition feels constant, this footage might end up capturing more than practice. It might mark the beginning of the Browns' next era. The footage starts quietly, but the meaning behind it is anything but. This is Shedeur Sanders at Browns practice, and everything about it feels final. Snow on the ground, cold air hanging over the field. No music, no hype, just a quarterback finishing his work. This practice clip doesn't look like a teaser. It looks like a closing chapter. Sanders is taking snaps, moving through drills, staying locked in, knowing the season is winding down and the stakes are higher than ever. This isn't just another rep in December. This practice happens with the Bengals looming and questions stacking up around him. The Browns are preparing for a critical matchup, and Sanders' safety is front and center. Every drop back, every drill, every step matters because the conversation around him isn't about talent anymore. It's about protection, durability, and whether the situation around him is stable enough to support him. The offensive line becomes a silent character in this footage. Sanders could do everything right, but if the protection breaks down, none of it matters. That's why this practice feels tense even without sound. He's preparing, but the margin for error is razor thin. Fans watching this clip aren't just seeing a quarterback train. They're seeing a player trying to survive the end of a turbulent. As the footage continues, the conditions get harder to ignore. Snow falls steadily, turning the field into a visual metaphor that doesn't need explaining. This is a final practice, and it looks exactly how the Browns season has felt. Cold, uncertain, and unfinished. Sanders keeps working through it, unfazed on the surface, but everyone watching understands what this represents. This practice effectively signals the end of his season. There's no announcement needed. The body language says enough. Sanders isn't celebrating. He's not soaking attention. He's focused, deliberate, and professional. The viral reaction comes from that contrast. No theatrics, just preparation in harsh conditions while the future remains unclear. The conversation around Sanders has shifted at this point. It's no longer just about development. It's about timing, about whether this organization is ready to give him what he needs next. This footage spreads because it captures a moment where effort meets uncertainty. Sanders is doing his part, but the bigger questions are completely out of his control. That uncertainty extends directly to the head coach. Kevin Stefanski's future is no longer a background topic. It's part of the daily conversation around this team. Credible reports point to internal discussions and a lack of firm reassurance from ownership. Stefanski hasn't been definitively backed, and that silence is loud. When Stefanski speaks, every word is analyzed, not just for strategy, but for tone, for signs of security or doubt. The Browns are operating in a space where the head coach may or may not be part of the next phase, and that affects everything. Practices, evaluations, and decisions all carry an extra layer of tension. This matters for Sanders directly. Quarterbacks need stability. Systems matter. Continuity matters. And right now, the Browns don't have clarity at the top. Stefanski's situation reflects a broader organizational unease, and players feel that even if it's never said out loud. At the same time, the quarterback room remains unresolved. Dillon Gabriel's role is confirmed to continue, and that's important. He's part of the plan moving forward, but what that plan looks like isn't defined. The competition for the starting role is still open, and nothing has been locked in. Gabriel's presence keeps the pressure on everyone. This isn't a depth chart settled by default. It's an ongoing evaluation. Training camp reps matter. Practice footage matters. Every performance feeds into a bigger decision that the organization hasn't committed to yet. This situation mirrors the rest of the Browns' offseason. Pieces are in place, but the direction isn't finalized. Gabriel represents continuity, but also competition. And that balance adds to the feeling that nothing is guaranteed, especially at the most important position on the field. Deshaun Watson remains part of that conversation as well. His position in the future quarterback battle isn't guaranteed, and that alone speaks volumes. This isn't a settled hierarchy. It's an evaluation process still unfolding. Watson's inclusion adds complexity, not clarity. The Browns are juggling multiple options without committing publicly to any single path. That creates tension within the locker room and fuels speculation outside it. When no quarterback is firmly established, every practice rep becomes a statement. This isn't about one player struggling or succeeding in isolation. It's about an organization that hasn't drawn a clear line forward. And that uncertainty bleeds into every discussion about leadership, roster construction, and long-term planning. Ownership sits at the center of all of this. Jimmy Haslam hasn't provided definitive answers, and that absence of clarity shapes the entire narrative. Meetings happen, discussions take place, but reassurance hasn't followed. The lack of explicit backing for Stefanski suggests the Browns are considering significant changes. That doesn't mean decisions are finalized, but confirms that everything is on the table. Coaching, roster strategy, and organizational philosophy are all under review. This environment affects players immediately. When leadership is undecided, stability disappears. Everyone senses that the franchise may be preparing for a reset, even if it hasn't been announced. All of these threads converge around Stefanski again. His tenure represents the current era of the Browns, and the possibility of his departure signals the end of that chapter. The speculation isn't coming from nowhere. It's fueled by internal critiques and the absence of public commitment. If a coaching change happens, it reshapes everything. Offensive systems change. Quarterback evaluations reset. Development timelines shift. That's why this moment feels so heavy. The Browns aren't just deciding who stays or goes. They're deciding what kind of organization they want to be next. For Sanders, for Gabriel, for everyone in that building, the stakes extend far beyond one game or one practice. This final practice footage lands in the middle of that chaos. Snow on the field, questions everywhere. A team finishing a season without knowing what comes next. Fans and analysts aren't overreacting when they call this a moment of transition. All the signs point to change. The Browns are approaching an offseason filled with critical decisions. Coaching stability, quarterback direction, and organizational leadership are all in question. The footage of Sanders practicing becomes symbolic, not because it's flashy, but because it's honest. It shows effort without certainty. As this clip continues to circulate, it represents more than a viral moment. It captures the Browns at a crossroads, a team preparing for a possible reset while players continue to do their jobs. That tension defines this moment, and everyone watching knows the next moves will shape Cleveland's future. If you want to stay updated on everything unfolding around the Browns, make sure to like the video, share it with other fans, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more coverage as this story continues to develop. The more this practice footage circulates, the more people start connecting dots they didn't want to connect. Shedeur Sanders' final reps aren't just about mechanics or rhythm. They're part of a season that's quietly ending without any grand finale. After everything, media coverage, pressure, flashes of brilliance, this is what it comes down to. Quiet execution in brutal weather while decisions get made elsewhere. What stands out about Sanders is how steady he remains. There's no frustration, no visible sign of fatigue, just focus. It's been a long stretch, and for him, it ends not with celebration but with grit. This is his last moment on the practice field in a Browns uniform for the season, and whether it leads to starting reps next year or something else entirely, this footage will be the visual timestamp. The media doesn't need to add much context. The video speaks for itself. A quarterback working, while the future is being shaped behind closed doors. People see it and start reading between the lines. Is this the end of the Stefanski-Sanders pairing? Is this the start of a rebuild or a redirection? Every angle feels possible because no one's closing the loop. By the time Sanders speaks to the media, the clip has already gone viral. Reporters lean in, waiting to see if he'll confirm anything about the future. He doesn't. He stays professional. But it's clear he knows what the conversation is. His words are measured, respectful, non-committal. Sanders isn't just talking about the practice or the game plan. He's talking around the speculation. Questions about coaching, organizational direction, and his role are carefully answered with generic phrases. And that's what makes it louder. He's not confirming anything, but he's not denying anything either. This is what it looks like when a player understands a business side of football. He knows that every word will be clipped, replayed, dissected. So he says little, but his tone matches a mood. Uncertain, controlled, focused on what he can control. The press conference does nothing to calm fans down. If anything, it adds fuel to the fire. After the snow-covered practice and the press conference, the next moment people latch onto is Sanders on the sideline during warm-ups. He's not suited up for full contact. He's present but not active. That alone tells people what they need to know. The season isn't over, but his reps are. This quiet sidelining becomes symbolic of everything the Browns are dealing with. It's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's just muted. A natural step in an uncertain direction. Sanders is doing what's asked of him, staying ready, but clearly wrapping up this chapter of his time on the field, for now. Analysts point to this as another sign that decisions are being made behind the scenes. He's not injured. He's not benched for performance. He's just inactive. The team doesn't need to say anything. The silence fills the space where clarity should be. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel is still in the building, still in meetings, still part of the plan. When he speaks to reporters, he strikes a different tone. He talks about continuity, learning, and competition. It's clear he expects to be around. He talks about preparing to take the next step. There's no hesitation. Gabriel's confidence doesn't feel like arrogance. It feels like someone who knows the situation is safer than others. He's been confirmed as a continuing piece. Not guaranteed a starting spot, but guaranteed a spot. That changes how he carries himself. What's interesting is that Gabriel's presence alone changes the urgency around everyone else. If the Browns were committing to one quarterback, there would be less noise. But because the competition is open, every move is under a microscope. The media isn't overanalyzing. The team just hasn't closed any doors. Then comes another moment that sets off alarms. Kevin Stefanski's post-game interview. It's not what he says. It's what he doesn't say. Asked about the future, about job security, about returning next season, he doesn't offer a firm answer. He deflects, thanks the players, talks about evaluating everything in the offseason. It's the kind of answer you give when you're not sure what you're allowed to say, or when you don't want to say something that will be proven wrong days later. Stefanski isn't panicking, but he's not securing anything either. The tone is reflective, borderline resigned. Analysts pick up on this right away. No coach with full backing sounds like that. No coach with total security leaves that many questions hanging. It doesn't matter how composed he is. The lack of a definitive message speaks volumes. If a decision hasn't been made yet, it's clearly close. Ownership is nowhere near a microphone, but their influence is everywhere. Jimmy Haslam hasn't made any public appearances related to the speculation, and that absence carries weight. At a time when clarity would calm everything down, silence becomes a message. Photos of Haslam arriving at team facilities go viral. Not because he says anything, but because people are desperate for a signal. A thumbs up, a handshake, a comment. Nothing comes. The media frames it as a calm before a major shift. Inside the organization, staff members reportedly feel the tension. Even if nothing has been decided publicly, the atmosphere feels transitional. Haslam's lack of presence is strategic. He's letting the storm swirl until it's time to act, or confirm what's already been decided. Andrew Berry, the GM, doesn't do much to settle things either. When asked about the coaching situation, he sticks to talking points. Evaluations are ongoing. We're proud of the team's effort. There's no public commitment to Stefanski, and that's all anyone notices. Barry's tone is corporate, safe, controlled, but it's not supportive. There's no endorsement, no suggestion that leadership is stable. That absence creates a vacuum, and everyone fills it with speculation. Barry doesn't say anything wrong, but he doesn't say what fans are waiting to hear. This all adds up to an off-season that's already begun emotionally, even if the games haven't officially ended. The coach, the quarterback room, the leadership, it's all being held in the balance. The only thing that feels certain is that change is on the horizon. And in the middle of all of it, the Browns still have to play football. The Bengals are next, but the conversation isn't about the matchup anymore. It's about what comes after. Who stays? Who goes? What direction they commit to? The Browns are walking into this game like a team already in transition. Coaches try and stay professional. Players try and tune out noise. Executives avoiding microphones. Fans hoping for answers. That's the atmosphere this final week has created. The game itself feels like a formality. The stakes are more about perception than standings. If it goes well, does that save Stefanski? If it goes badly, does that accelerate his departure? Even the outcome won't give clear answer, but it might influence the timeline. Everyone watching knows what's coming. The viral footage of Sanders wasn't just an isolated moment. It was a signal that things are wrapping up. And when the off-season officially begins, this clip will be replayed as the moment people knew something was shifting. The next few weeks will define how this era of Browns football is remembered, whether they build on what they've started or tear it down and start fresh. That decision hasn't been announced, but every sign points in the same direction. By now, the images from that final snowy practice are everywhere. Still shots of Shedeur Sanders layered up, eyes forward, mid-throw as flakes fall around him. Every frame tells the same story. This is someone carrying weight, not just for himself, but for the entire franchise. And in the middle of all that pressure, he's focused, zoned in, completely dialed. The tone of these photos? It's not flashy, it's not celebratory, it's stoic. That silence is power. No filter, no captions needed. The media and fans latch onto it because it feels like a freeze frame of the Browns' current state. A quarterback doing everything right, but surrounded by a storm he can't control, literally and figuratively. This isn't hype content. This is documentation. Proof that Sanders finished strong. That he didn't coast to the end, didn't flinch, didn't make it about himself. For a team caught between eras, those final shots say a lot more than any press release could. When Sanders finally addresses the footage, he doesn't say much, and that's the point. He acknowledges a moment, calls it a good way to finish the week, but steers clear of anything deeper. He thanks the team, the staff, the locker room. Standard answers, perfectly delivered, but the subtext is loud. The careful language, the tone, the eye contact. It all suggests someone who's been told to stay on message. Not because he's hiding something, but because the team doesn't want the spotlight burning any hotter than it already is. His restraint earns respect. There's no drama, no subtle jabs, no cryptic sound bites. Just poise. And that alone becomes another reason why people think he's preparing to move into the next phase of his football life. When players start talking like that, measured, reflective, it usually means the page is turning. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel's presence keeps this quarterback conversation alive. He's still suiting up, still throwing, still getting meaningful reps in the closing stretch. The photos tell their own story. Gabriel working like someone who's expecting more responsibility soon. He's not trying to take over the spotlight, but every time he's on the field, the message is clear. He's staying ready. That's why he keeps appearing in these games. That's why the staff keeps evaluating. The Browns aren't just managing this week. They're quietly deciding who they can trust long-term. What these shots show is stability. Gabriel isn't erratic. He's not polarizing. He's dependable. And in an organization where leadership is under review, dependability carries weight. He's not the story yet, but he's making sure he's part of the next chapter. Deshaun Watson still lingers in the background of all of this. His photos pop up occasionally, but they don't carry the same energy they used to. He's technically part of the quarterback conversation, but nobody's calling him the clear future anymore. The situation around Watson is blurry. Whether it's injury recovery, chemistry issues, or organizational shift, his spotlight has dimmed. The photos from his recent outings look transitional, less like a franchise centerpiece, more like a player under long-term evaluation. That matters, because when you have multiple quarterbacks and none of them are guaranteed the job, it changes how the whole team operates. Every play is weighted, every mistake is amplified, and every success is scrutinized for whether it's repeatable. Watson isn't out of the conversation, but he's no longer controlling it either. Then there's Stefanski, still on the sideline, still doing the job. For now, recent game photos show him locked in, headset on, managing what could be his final games with the Browns. There's no visible frustration, no grand gestures, just business as usual in a situation that's anything but. That calm exterior can be read two ways. Either he's confident in his standing, or he's already accepted what's coming. His demeanor isn't changing, but the environment around him is. Every week that passes without a public show of support makes it feel more likely that a reset is coming. And if a coaching change does happen, these photos will take on a different meaning in hindsight. People will look back at Stefanski's final games and wonder how much he knew, how long he was waiting for the inevitable, whether he was just keeping things from falling apart on his way out. What ties this all together is the Browns' current vibe, unsettled. The match footage, the practice clips, the sideline shots, they all carry the same energy. This isn't a team that's coasting into the offseason. It's a team at a fork in the road, trying to figure out who they are. Everything is under the microscope. Every decision, every formation, every post-game quote. Fans can feel that change is coming. Maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's quarterback leadership. Maybe it's both. But it's coming. The question is just when and how publicly it happens. For now, the organization stays silent, letting the footage and body language do the talking. But the longer that silence lasts, the louder the speculation gets. And as soon as the season ends, the Browns will have to show their hand. If you're still watching, still waiting, still refreshing your feed for the next update, you're not alone. Go ahead and like this video, drop a comment, share it with your crew, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the moment the Browns finally make their move.